Welcome everybody. I'm Deanne Jones. I'm the project director for Strong Readers, and you can just follow along with this agenda that Melissa has dropped the link in the chat if you want to pull it up. So just looking at mine. If you're tuning in for just changes to the law due to the Strong Readers and Senate Bill 362 passing, we talked more about that in last month's webinar. So if you want to, we're not going to cover all of those things again in this meeting. So if you missed last month's, there is a link posted right here where you can go on and watch our webinar from August.
That is better.
Okay, so this first link here for the Strong Readers webinar is our reporting from the August meeting, where we go over all of the changes with the new Senate Bill 362. And right below that is the link to my slide deck, where that you can access that to get more information if you're needing specific information about all of the changes with our new legislation. And the last link right there is the link for our Strong Readers for Schools webpage, where we have all of the guidance and documents posted there. We also have new forms and documents. All of our forms have been updated and are available at our Strong Readers for Schools webpage as well. And you can click that link to see that. Our technical guidance for the screeners have been updated and posted as well. I know a lot of you some of you already have, and some of you are currently still working on your beginning of the year testing. And so we have those guidance documents for the screeners posted there. Next thing I want to talk about is reports. So we have 3 reports that are currently going on right now. The first one we have a little bit of a problem with. Our Strong Readers, well, first of all, here's the timeline is linked if you would like to access the timeline where you can see all of the due dates. But our annual district reading plan is having a delay. It required a lot of changes this year due to the new legislation. There were some extra things we had to ask for. And so that plan is still currently being developed by OMES, and we do not have a date yet to know when it's going to open. Whenever it is open, we will announce that it's open, and we will announce a new deadline for it to be due. But I just want to go over a few of those things because hopefully it will open before our next meeting. And so I want to just go over a few things about that. The district plan has superintendent and district user roles. The site plan has those same roles, plus it has the principal and site user roles. The principal at each site must confirm the site plan, and then the district plan must be certified by the district superintendent. This year is a little different in that you will not be able to copy from last year's plan. In the past, as soon as you opened your plan, there was a little checkbox that you could check that said you would like to copy your information from the previous year. And then you would just go in and edit if you had any changes. That will not be an option this year, just due to the fact that we had to change so many things on it. That option was taken away. So you will be entering all of your information from scratch this year. And then all of these, this is just a reminder that all of the site district plans have to be submitted to us, and we have to review all of them and approve them all before we can administer any Strong Readers funds and release them to the districts. So whenever we do release that the plan is open and we release the new deadline, we would like to encourage you to get yours in as soon as possible. Because if everyone is waiting till the last minute on that, it is just going to further delay us being able to get your funds out to you. Because this year, obviously, this plan is usually due August 31st. And so we're pretty delayed on getting it out and being able to get those back in. And so if we can get those in as soon as possible so we can start reviewing them and get them all reviewed so that we can get your funds out to you. The next report is the Strong Readers Survey, the beginning of the year report. This one is currently open. We've already had a lot of districts already complete it. The plan is open. It is due October 1st. This is the plan that is just asking you how many students you've tested, how many students were on level. It's your beginning of the year numbers. This, if you need help looking to complete your plan, this is a link to the beginning of the year video tutorial. And it is also on our webpage, but you can access it from this link and it will just go through the report and what all you need to do to complete it. This report also has to be submitted and approved from us before we can distribute funds. This is where we get the numbers of how many students we have statewide that are below level. This is how we come up with our allocation of per pupil allotment for your Strong Readers Fund. So we also have to have this one in from every district before we can allocate your funds out to you. The one other report that is currently going on now is the third grade promotion report. This will be the last year for this report because this is the last year, last school year was the last group of third graders that were under the third grade retention law. So we are filling, this report is currently open right now, but it will be your last time to have to fill it out. It's open. It is due on November 1st. If you are having any issues with this report, it is supposed to populate your students. So when you go in and open it up, it should show you all of your third graders from last year that did not pass the RSA criteria on the state test. And then you would go in and click if they were retained or if you promoted them and by which pathway you were promoting them. If it is not populating correctly for you, if you are seeing, we've had some districts that are seeing some students on there twice. If you're seeing a student on there twice, if you're seeing students missing that you know did not pass the state criteria and they're not showing up for you, this is who you need to contact. You need to contact Kyle Wayne from OMES, and this is his email address. And then there's also the service desk email address. You need to contact one of those two and tell them, you know, either that you have students multiple times or what students you are missing so that they can get that fixed for you so that you can get that report completed and out to us as soon as possible. The next thing is our statewide screener. The announcement went out last week that we have adopted a statewide screener and the contract is all signed, and that statewide screener is Amira. So this assessment will be provided at no cost to the districts in Oklahoma for K through 5 students. If your school would like to apply to get access to this, this is the link right here. You can click that to sign the school up. A little note here, if your school is thinking about switching to Amira, we will be granting an extended deadline for schools who decide to switch to Amira, because if you're just now switching and you're going to have to do your beginning of the year testing, we realize that this is going to be pushing you tight with that October 1st deadline. So if you do choose to switch to Amira, we will be granting an extension to that October 1st timeline. We will be hosting 3 webinars, informational webinars for Amira this week. And these are the times and options. We have the first one is today, right after this meeting at 2 o'clock. We will have a meeting that Amira is going to host. And this is a Zoom link for that. And these will all last about 60 minutes. We have another one tomorrow at 2:30. And then we have one on Thursday at 10:30. And these are our first round of just a general overall information. If your school is considering switching to Amira or using our statewide screener, these would be great for you to participate in so that you could get all the information that you would need. I'm going to pause right there for just a second. Melissa, are we having any questions? I think there would probably be some questions about the statewide screener.
We have several I've been trying to answer as we're going. So you'll notice a lot of answers there in the chat, but I know they come so quickly. Sometimes it's easy to miss them. One of the things that I know we're also getting a lot of calls about is the online parent resources that we are providing on the slip. That is a new addition to the legislation. We actually are working on building a more robust resource for families, but obviously that takes a moment to do. In the interim, we do have on the Strong Readers for Families page, and I did link in the chat. I'll try to put that, it's towards the bottom if you are looking for it. There is a place where it says read at home plans. These are some resources from REL Southeast where they have some resources that can be given or provided to families that they are located online. But for right now, we are still trying to get that built out. As I'm sure many of you are aware, that takes a couple of minutes to have something of quality, which that's certainly what we want. So that will work in the interim, but we will be releasing more information soon. If you are getting an error message on the beginning of year report or this, the Strong Readers Act survey, would you like to address how that needs to be handled, Deanne?
On the Strong Readers survey, is that the same thing, OMES help desk?
Yes.
That I just linked and had on the agenda.
Okay. And I would always recommend when you get those error messages to take a screenshot and include that with your service ticket. Because there's some coding in those error messages. To me, they all look like the same yellow box, but apparently there's some coding in there for those that are a little more tech savvy than me, that will help them find out what the problem is so they can get that fixed pretty quickly. One of the questions that's come up is about the requirement to post information on your website about numbers for beginning of year. Just a reminder that that is not going to go into effect until fall of 2025. So we will have that form for you. But this specific question was if you're at a very small school where those numbers would make your students identifiable, there will be guidance forthcoming about how there are specific statistical rules that where we can anonymize, it's really hard to say, the words or the numbers so that students are not identifiable. So if you have 10 third graders and it would be identifiable to, I say, well, this is our one student who's at risk, then we would have a way of saying, here are the rules for that. Here's what you would post. So that guidance will be forthcoming before it's required that we put this on your website so that we are following all FERPA guidelines. I believe that is it for right now, except that I saw a few more posted. So Deanne, if you want to keep going, and then I will see what else we've got.
I saw one and I have gotten several emails on this one as well, is still more questions surrounding the notice of proficiency. So the notice of proficiency is new this year and it is only a requirement for 1st through 3rd grade. So I've had questions about people asking about kindergarten. We are not required to send it for kindergarten. It's only for 1st through 3rd grade. And it is only for students that are scoring the 60th percentile and above. So where a lot of questions are coming in is we're putting students that are below the 40th on a slip, and we're sending notice of proficiency for students 60th and above. What about the students between those two? And the answer to that is the students between the 40th and the 60th, you're going to notify the parents of their results, but they're not going to get any extra notification. They're not going to be put on a slip, and they're not going to get the proficiency notice. Reason kind of for this is we want that we don't want to start sending notice of proficiency for students who are at the 42nd or 43rd or 45th percentile, and then the very next time we test, they end up needing to be on a slip. So we want that 20-point cushion in between there where those students, they're working and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but we're not considering them proficient yet because they're not at that 60th percentile, but they're also not really showing a deficit. So those students on that in-between portion, you're going to notify the parents of their score, but they just won't be receiving any additional notification. So hopefully that kind of clears some of that up. We just don't want to be, we don't want it to be right where we're saying you're proficient at 41 and you're not at 40. We want to be showing that area in between is where those students are still working. They're still growing as readers. They're not showing deficit. They're just still young readers, just still growing. So hopefully that can clear up that question that I've been seeing quite a few of those. Get back to my agenda and then we'll see if any others come in. So after the next thing up is the grant. So Melissa, do you want to kind of talk about the grant just for a few minutes?
So Superintendent Walters announced last week in his press conference that Oklahoma was awarded the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, CLSD. This is a later iteration of what many of you recall as the Striving Readers Grant that we had a few years ago. So the way this grant is, it is 11 million and some odd dollars this year. It is a 5-year grant, so it'll be a total of 58 million over the course of 5 years. And obviously there is, as with any grant, a lot of checks and balances that must go with that. We're very aware and trying to make sure that we're following those. 95% of those grant funds are to be distributed to districts through a sub-grant process. So in the next few weeks, there will be information coming out about how districts may apply for one of those sub-grants. That has been identified in the grant narrative of some larger districts, mid-level districts, and smaller districts, so that there is a distribution among regionally across the state and across size of districts. The purpose of the grant is to support readers who are striving to become more proficient at the elementary level. But it is comprehensive, that it focuses on anywhere from birth up through grade 12. So the actual grant, hang on, I misspoke a second. The focus of the grant is for dealing with that comprehensive look from birth to grade 12. So we would have to have early childhood partners and work through across from grades pre-K through 12 to make sure that we are looking at what all students need to become successful citizens in our state. So like I said, there will be more information coming out. You can check the the literacy policy and programs web pages on the State Department of Education. That's everything linked to anything that Deanne is giving out. You'll see the links there for those pages so you can find that information. And we will also be pushing out information as much as we can through our newsletters, both the Strong Readers newsletter and the administrative newsletter, so that you're aware of any opportunities to benefit from that funding source from the federal government, which we greatly appreciate.
I see a couple questions about if we're making some more of our forms available in a fillable form, and we are. One of the ones I see asked about is the notice of proficiency, and we do have that made as a fillable document. We'll be getting that posted soon, as well as the slip addendum that someone's asking about. We also are going to have that available in fillable form, and we will get those posted soon for you to use. Next on our agenda is just some things I want to make you aware of. OSDE will be hosting some fall regionals. The elementary English language arts and social studies are going together, and they are going to have 5 different fall regionals in September and October. And here are the links where you can register for those if one of these cities is close to you, and that would be a good resource for you to go attend these fall regionals. So that is all I have on the agenda today. And let's see if we have any other things we want to.
Let me take a moment and address Amira, if I might. So some of the questions that's coming up is, if we're not ready to do so this year, because we've already done our testing with our current screening assessment, would there be an opportunity to take advantage of this next year? Yes, our contract with Amira is on a year-to-year basis, because we cannot carry a contract over fiscal years, but there is an option to renew for up to 10 years. So there is really that intention to maintain this for quite some time, not to make this a yearly look and try to find this. So we are wanting to have this partnership for some time. We're having to also fit within the legal requirements of what a contract can look like across fiscal years. So we know that many of you have already started with something else, and that is perfectly fine. We do understand how that works. So a couple of options. One, if you want to look at this for something next year, not a problem. It should be available as a consideration. And that way you would have some opportunities to maybe do some training this year as you are wanting to move towards that. Another option might be, since this would be a free resource and would not be something that would cost you additional funding, to say we would like to join in, but we would like to maintain also and do our screeners, so that we're looking at this as more of a pilot. So that we're comparing this while we're doing our other screener, we're also going to do Amira. Now, the downside of that would be some additional time for your students to test, but it would also give your teachers an opportunity to see what are the comparisons between what they're used to and something new, or to be able to better understand some of those good testing practices as we're working towards that. And then, like we also did say, if you are just wanting to go ahead and make that switch, we will be extending that deadline to ensure that districts do have time for some training on the proper administration of Amira, as well as a window of time, a reasonable window of time to be able to assess your students and still be able to complete any reporting with being held harmless for anything beyond that October 1 date. So we would make sure that you have that. And I know believe we said October 15th, but I don't have that number right in front of me right this time. But that would allow you to be able to get all of your teachers trained, have at least a 2-week window for screening your students and then completing the beginning of your assessment. Let's see. We will obviously be providing some training. We are putting those dates. Hopefully, I have not heard from Amira exactly when those dates will be quite yet, but I am hoping to have those so that we can advertise them in our meeting in 30 minutes. So we will make sure that those are also on the website. We will be recording the introductory webinar with Amira and putting that on our Strong Readers for Amira website. Deanne, since you're showing your screen, could you go to that website, please, so that our participants can see where that is? And I think you actually have it linked already.
No, yes, I do.
Okay, this is our Strong Readers for Schools. So a lot of the things that Deanne is talking about where we record this meeting, but you'll see on the mirror, on the menu off to the side, you'll see Strong Readers for Amira. And if you'll click that right there, thank you. And so you'll see any information around Amira, training dates, recordings, and a nice big yellow button that if you are wanting to enroll your school or district to take advantage of this no cost to you opportunity, that you can fill that form out. It's just a very brief form. Uh-oh, our website disappeared.
It's not,
If you'll just hit the back button. Okay, thank you. If you'll scroll on down, you'll see the webinar dates and the Zoom links for that. Those will disappear after this week, and we'll just put the recording up there, and then we will have our training schedule posted right up there as well. Again, as we get more information and we are, as we're building this out, adding more to this very frequently, this is a page that you might want to come back to as you are looking into those options. Okay, looking at one of the questions that's come up that we have answered online, but just to make sure that we have it out loud, is do we have to notify parents at all of our progress monitoring screenings or just at the benchmarks? Legally, we just have to make sure that those notifications for slips and for proficiency go out at our benchmark time. It is up to districts if they need to add additional communication with progress monitoring. Okay. And then another question that we often get asked is, what if a student is just above the 40th percentile? Can we include them in our numbers? No, because that does affect our funding. And what we have found, without drawing a hard line on that, is that we'll have districts adding more and more kids, and then we start all of a sudden get our funding very off balance. So because our funding is based on those numbers that we turned in, we need that to be at or below the 40th percentile is what we're turning in. Now, there is nothing preventing a district from providing interventions to those students that are below and if or just above. And if it seems that they are slipping down, if that seems to be a false high, we can always add them onto a slip at a later time if you feel that that's warranted, so that on our end of year counts, we're including them. But we have that hard line for 40th percentile as we're determining that allocation number, which is what's from the beginning of year report. Okay. Gail, I see your questions about RAN. I've tried to answer that already. But basically the point of a RAN, or rapid automatized naming test, which is required in legislation, is to make sure that students are testing on, it's an assessment of working memory. It's not an assessment of the content of the test. So whether it's, sometimes you'll see a RAN using colors, objects, letters, numbers. Oklahoma has not dictated which should be used, but sometimes it is what the assessment has available. So it is a requirement that our students are tested with RAN to assess their working memory. Ideally, the content should be something that that student is familiar with and knows. So if you're using, for kindergarten, it might make sense to use color. If that is not available with your screener, whether it's Amira or another screener, and let's say they only have letters, it's usually about 5 different letters. So it is reasonable to introduce those letters before the assessment, maybe a couple of days before the assessment, let them practice a little bit, because the RAN is really looking at retrieval speed. It's not looking at identification of those letters. It's saying, this is something I know. How quickly am I able to retrieve this from my working memory? So if you have students that did not go to pre-K, you're needing to give them letters or numbers or something, and you show them the stimulus beforehand, and you show them, but this is what this is. And then you go into a RAN assessment to practice that working memory. It was fine. It does not invalidate those scores. Okay. Let's see here. Let's try and think. Can you use Amira for some grades, but not for all, and use something else for like your older students? Absolutely. On that form that we've asked you to fill out, we've asked you to identify the grade levels that you would want to use this for. Okay. It makes sense a lot of times to use the same thing across so that you can do some vertical conversations about your data, but it is not a requirement. That is a district decision for you all to make based on what you feel is best. Deanne, have you seen anything that we need to address that I have not hit yet?
Been addressing some just in the chat, but I don't see anything else that we need to
Okay.
address.
One question I did just see, your district is already using Amira. We will have information out about that reimbursement piece of that and how we're working through that. We're just trying to make sure that we're very, very clear so that we have the data where we need to be. But no, we're not going to ask districts to purchase something that's being provided free for everybody else. So we will get that taken care of.
Can I just pop on and ask a question without the chat?
Yes, Stephanie, go ahead.
Okay, so on the BOY down at the end, you know, they have the new criteria that's been added for like the OAAP and the exemptions.
Yes.
And so would that only apply to the students who are being placed on slip plans that tested below the 40th, or is that any student? Like if we have 2 students that are on the OAAP, but they didn't get assessed for a slip plan, do we count those?
So the idea behind those exemptions, so if Stephanie is talking about the new exemptions in strong readers that these are students that we feel that would not even benefit from the screening. In other words, they probably are having a difficult time even participating in the screening. So these would be our students whose primary form of communication is Braille or sign language. Students who have those severe difficulties that would likely be on the OAP, the Oklahoma Alternate Assessment Program. That portfolio assessment rather than the OSTP, or students who are in their first year of learning English. The idea being, again, these are students who would really just plain struggle with even completing the assessment to begin with. So yes, you would identify all of those students because you wouldn't necessarily know if they were below the 40th percentile or not because you exempted them from screening. So that's where you would just identify all of our students in kinder that would likely be on the OAP that is in their IEP. And I know that we've discussed this many times, and I've made sure to talk to Sherry Coates, who's our program director for special education. There is nothing preventing us from putting on the IEP that a student is eligible for the OAB. If they are in K through 2, you still have to go through that eligibility checklist when writing their IEP. But there is nothing that says you have to be in 3rd grade before adding that. That was the way that the legislation was written. So that's the one way we have to be able to identify is if the OAB is mentioned on their IEP. Okay.
Okay, I have one more
Can I ask
question.
a clarifying question on that piece,
Yeah.
Melissa?
Yes,
So,
go ahead.
if we know just because we, last year when they wrote in their annual IEPs weren't really expecting this exemption piece.
Understood.
So, now that we know that that's there, is it okay if they make sure to put that in during their annual review this year, but we go ahead and fill out that exemption? Because we know that they are extremely high needs, having lots of struggles. Can we go
Kristen, let
ahead
me
and do
get
that?
back with you on that one. I would say definitely plan on adding it in this year.
Okay,
I don't know if legally I can advise you
okay,
to move forward. Common sense, I would love to,
okay,
but legally, I don't know that I can advise you to do that.
okay,
And I don't want to get either of us in trouble.
okay.
Okay, the other
Okay,
question on the ESL, so it says like if they haven't been in English for a year, would that be calendar year or school year?
Usually we're looking at calendar year is if you have a kiddo who is not speaking, who is struggling with, they're that silent period. We're trying to avoid making children just putting them in an untenable situation. So if they are able to start communicating and able to do some of those things, I would go ahead and recommend screening them when you can, because our idea is not to try to get kids out of it. Our idea here is to eliminate the students from having to do something where it is not helpful for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Sure. Anything else that we're seeing?
Hi, Melissa. The STAR cut scores have changed from last year.
Right.
And does that go into effect right now?
Deanne, I know you've been talking with Renaissance.
And I've kind of been answering some of that in the chat. STAR did have some major changes this year. So I know previously, because what we always looked at was that 3rd grade cut, and it was 970, and it is down to, I'm not sure exactly, I'm gonna say it's like a 958. It's something like that. Like it did go down quite a bit. And yes, those would be in effect right now. We've posted new guidance for STAR, and I've been seeing lots of questions about scores for lots of the screeners. So if you go to the Strong Readers for School webpage and go under our technical guidance, we have all except for one of our vendors' guidance posted for this year, and STAR's new guidance is on there, and it does reflect those new scores that they put into effect.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
And I see somebody's asked about if there's somebody that they could speak with about Amira. I just, in case you came on late, just want to remind you that we have 3 webinars scheduled this week. to review, Amira, to kind of give that introduction for you. The first one will be immediately after this meeting at 2:00. That would be helpful for you. And we, again, for many of you, I know how busy all of you are and just so appreciate all of you. We will have that meeting recorded and on our website for you to refer to later on if it's just not possible to be able to attend that live.
One other thing I want to address is I've had lots of questions about diagnostic assessments and progress monitoring assessments. And can I use this one or can I use this one? We are not going to give a list of approved diagnostic assessments or progress monitoring assessments. Districts have the ability to choose whatever assessment they feel best fits the needs for their teachers and students. So you don't have to ask us to approve your assessment tool for either one of those purposes. It is district choice. You can make those choices for yourself. And another question we've had a lot is about the time and frequency of some of those assessments. Progress monitoring specifically, we do have a recommended frequency, and that is that tier 2 get monthly progress monitoring and tier 3 get weekly, but those are our recommendations. That is still local decision of what works best for your kids. So we do have the recommended for those, but you still have the choice to implement that however that best works for your district.
Okay, I see
question.
one about exemption paperwork. And where does it need to live?
Okay, so we do have the documentation that you have to have. The form is on our website and it needs to be filled out and signed. And then that needs to stay in the student's permanent file so that would be able to be accessed throughout that child's academic career.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I have a question about it's probably off topic, but I had a question about the walk to read, the additional instruction time. Is that 30 minutes that everybody in the building has to do at the same time and it's not the intervention time?
Or you're talking, go ahead, Dan.
Right. I'm assuming you're talking about where we're asking that on the district plan.
Because the district plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not a requirement. You're not required to have that additional tier 1 instruction time, but we're just asking, that is one of the new requirements under legislation that we're required to pass if you do. So if you do have an extra, 30-minute walk to read or something like that, then we need to know that, and that will be asked in the district plan this year, but that's not a requirement.
Okay, thank you. Are a lot of schools we haven't implemented that. We just do intervention. Have a lot of schools implemented the walk to read, that extra 30 minutes?
I'm not for sure on the numbers, but I do know quite a few schools have that or something similar. They might call it something different, but they do have something where all students go to specific groups and get help on their time, on their level, even the above level students. And I know there are some different names that different schools call it, but that is what we're asking for on that specific question that will be on the plan when it opens.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, let's see. One question is, will Dibbles 8 have their screening technical guidance available anytime soon?
We have been working with Dibbles and we have just received some guidance from them today. And so we'll be working on getting that posted soon. We just had some delayed response from that vendor. And so as soon as we can get that worked up, we will get that posted for you.
And I see a couple of requests to have the OAP clarification about on the IEP for K2 students in writing. So we will work on getting that out and in collaboration with our special education department so that that can be shared. Because I know that that is, there's a lot of different thoughts running around about that. Let's see here. One of the questions is Amira required for all districts? The short answer is no, you still are able to choose from the approved list. Okay, one question is, do we have a list of approved professional developments for using the 10% of funds on? So Deanne, take it away.
Yes, we do. We have an approved list. It is on our website. If you go to the website on the tabs on the right, there is a tab that says literacy professional development, and there's an Airtable that has all of our approved vendors and sessions for professional development that are allowed to count as your 10% of your professional development requirement fund. So also when you're listing those, we have a new program code that is on the checklist that you will want to use to denote that you are using those specific courses so that we can count that as your 10% of funds. And also if you have, well, I'm thinking about professional development. If you have a vendor, because we have a few people who call us and say, we'd really like to see this professional development be added. We are reviewing those twice a year now. And so where you're looking at that Airtable on the website, there is a link above it that shows our dates. We have 2 dates during the year. And there is a link that's just live all the time where vendors can go in and put in all their information and apply to be added to our approved list. And then we will review them twice a year and update our list so that if you have some professional development that you think is really good and you would like to see added, by all means, and tell your vendor about our website and tell them to apply so that we can get as many good options as possible provided for you.
Okay, 2 more questions. One, if you want to review again, we had a couple of people that got on late about the reading plan, the district reading plan.
Okay. So our district reading plan usually is supposed to be opened in the summertime and closes August 31st. That did not happen this year due to all of the extensive changes that the plan needed. And we are still waiting for it to be open. We are still working with OMES. They are still making some changes on the site level plan. And once the district and site level plans are ready and it is open, we will send out a newsletter letting everyone know that it is open and giving a new due date for it. We will make sure that you have, 30 days or so to get it filled out and submitted to us. Just keep in mind that a few things have changed on the plan this year, some new things we have to ask. And with that happening, you will no longer have the option to copy last year's plan. In the past, when you opened the plan, the first person to open that district plan up, you had a choice to click copy last year's plan, and that option is going to be gone this year because of so many changes on the plan that just wasn't going to be a feasible option. And then we will let you know when it's open and when the new deadline is.
We're hoping in the next couple of days, but we can't guarantee anything. So it's out of our hands on that. And then some clarification about 4th grade and above being on a slip if they are below the 40th percentile.
So, this year's 4th graders were 3rd graders last year under RSA. And so if those students, and I guess the 5th graders would have been the year before, those students who were passed from 3rd grade on an alternate pathway. So the students who did not pass the RSA criteria of the state test and they didn't pass their screener, if those students were promoted on to 4th grade, either that would be due to a good cause exemption or on probation by your SRPT committee, then those students are the students that we need to see on a slip plan. If those students meet the 40th percentile on your screener, then you no longer have to have them on a plan. And if those students are on an IEP, you do not have to put them on a SLIP plan. So if those fourth and fifth graders are on an IEP, you still need to provide some interventions for them. But if they're on an IEP, those interventions could be documented on their IEP, and you would not need to have them on a SLIP plan. So just to kind of recap that, the students above third grade that you would see on a SLIP plan right now would be the students who were passed on a good cause exemption or on probation by the team, and they are still not meeting the grade level target on the screener, and they're not on an IEP.
If Deanne,
Yes.
we have a question. There's 3 of us here. This is my principal's login, but we're sitting here listening, and we have possibly a student who's in that situation. He's a 4th grader, but parents are more than likely going to refuse the intervention. What kind of form do we need to make sure goes in their CUME folder? Or do they have the right to refuse?
So how we've handled this in the past is that there's not necessarily a form, but I would most definitely have them put the refusal in writing. So I would fill out the SLIP plan and then have the parents attach a letter saying, I don't want my child to participate. I would make sure that they understand that their child is not likely to, improve in their reading ability on their own. It's not a magical process, which we're all well aware of. Have them sign it, and I would keep that in the CUME folder.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we are hearing that question more often over the last year or so of parents not wanting those services. I'm not really sure where it has come from. But it is a shame because we know that their students are not going to improve without support. So I would definitely make sure it is well documented.
Okay, I think we've answered about all the questions.
I have one
And
that didn't get answered, sorry. On the fall regionals, is that gonna be the exact same information at all those regionals? So as long as we can at least get some people to one of them, will be good?
I think it is. That is my understanding. Melissa, is that what you think on the,
So
this
I
is the
think what-
ELE stuff?
Yes, what you've posted, they're doing the same information. It's just it's a smaller version of a roadshow to be able to
Okay.
get that around regionally. So
Okay, and then I just wanna, so on those probationary or on the slips for our 4th graders. So in the past, I thought it was just pathway 4, probationary promoted, but now you're saying all pathways except the number 1.
And the screener as well. So it
And
would be the
screener.
good cause
So,
exemptions.
all good
So
cause
it'd be the good,
plus 4 or plus probationary promoted, and they have still not hit 40th this year.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Because if they're doing the, if they pass the RSA criteria, then they're showing proficiency. And then we're also saying they could have shown proficiency on the screener.
Okay.
So the other 2 would not have shown proficiency. If they're using a good cause exemption, that didn't show proficiency. And if we're using the team, that wasn't really showing proficiency. So we're needing to continue to monitor the students that pass with those pathways.
the biggest idea always is to keep in mind that our purpose, the whole purpose here is just to identify students that need support. And so if those students are needing support, how are we going to give them that support to make sure that they are able to be successful? Because we all know the consequences of not being able to read fully as they are leaving the elementary school. It is really tough. So we want to make sure that we're able to give them as much as we can. We had over 250 people on today's call. We so appreciate so many of you taking the time to visit with us. And if you do have any further questions, please let us know. Dan, do you want to show our email address again in case anybody's needing it that is new?
Our Amira address, is that what you
Our
said?
email, or I'll also put it in
Our
the
email.
chat.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Okay, so at literacy@sde.ok.gov, that's a group email that goes to everyone in our office so that multiple people are able to get to it. Because we all know that email boxes can get very full, so it's able to help with getting 5 people on it instead of trying to rely on one person to get back to you. So we also have several of our Heroes field team on our call today to help out. I know many of you are familiar with them. You've seen them out and about at your schools, providing any of that support. If you are needing some additional help, just let us know and we will figure out how we can provide what help we can give you. So thank you all. I hope you're enjoying the beautiful fall weather and staying safe, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you all.